I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Has council had the opportunity to review July 6th meeting minutes? If so, how would you wish to proceed?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 6th.
Second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any changes to this evening's agenda? If not, I'll ask for approval of the set agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented. I'll second that.
Motion from Mike, second from Rick. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Guests in open forum. Anyone here for guests in open forum?
Just me again?
Welcome back.
I think I should have a seat up here with my name on it here at this point. Thank you for having me back. So, again, not this guy again, but got to go down with the ship here on this ATV thing, guys. Council members, Madam Mayor, I'm not here to kick a dead horse. Okay, I get it. I promise I'm going to say my piece quickly here and get out of the way for now on this thing. But before that happens, I just wanted to get a few more things on the record here. First and foremost, again, I simply do not understand the need of why we have to rush to pass this thing. You know, some of you may say, hey, we've been working on this for years, Pete. I'm not here to dispute that. But if we've uncovered anything over the last 6 weeks, that there are holes all over this. I mean, if this ordinance were a boat, it would sink to the bottom of Eagle Lake in a matter of seconds, okay? So again, I ask, why the rush? Why not plug these holes first? So on top of the over half dozen legitimate, valid, and undisputed claims that I've raised over the last month or so, several of you on this council, actually 2 weeks ago, raised some very valid points. And it's just that I want to take a few minutes just to kind of go over those real quick. Councilman Doring, how are you?
Good.
You know, you asked if there's been an increase in sightings and illegal activity since this thing first leaked, you know, a month or so ago. And the answer from the chief was yes. You're also concerned that people were, you know, already just thinking that this was in effect, so they're out and about. This was also confirmed. And then finally, you told us a horror story, if you remember. You said that you saw a very young adult and a very young child helmetless riding a machine that's not even covered in this ordinance. No helmet, no anything. Again, all very valid concerns. Thanks for bringing that up. I actually saw something similar just this Sunday on Rolling Ridge. It was a side-by-side. Young adult, 3 very, very young kids, no helmet, just cruising around. Scary stuff. Councilman Ormsfield, I mean, you mentioned that your neighborhood was already turning into an ATV racetrack. I mean, just horrifying and crazy. I know how that feels. I lived next to one of those over at the BAC. Okay? Very valid concern. Madam Mayor, you know, you had concerns about the fee of this. And the timetable that these permits are going to be good for. 3 years? Again, I do not understand that one. Also a concern for not wanting to generate any revenue off these permits. I mean, why not? What city doesn't want to generate revenue? So I think your questions were very valid. Councilman Henderson, you know, while you didn't specify any specific concern, you did mention the fact that many of these issues and concerns were being discussed, were actually covered in the way the current ordinance is written up. So maybe your concern was the vagueness of how this ordinance reads. I don't know, but having citizens check a box that they read this ordinance is ridiculous. I mean, let's face it, this thing is not a page turner. Making illegal activity legal is not going to bend the curve here to the right direction. You still got to catch the bad guys. And putting more of these machines out there isn't going to make that easier. It makes it harder. Chief, Again, you clarified a few things too, I appreciate it. In your address 2 weeks ago, you said that, you know what, enforcement on this thing is always gonna be an issue. I mean, that's just the cold hard truth of it, it's always gonna be an issue. Even jokingly asked these guys to give you permission to hire another officer. Something I'm 100% in favor of, you know, regardless of this issue, is something that we should be looking for. You also confirmed, you know, the rise in illegal ATV activity and sightings since this thing leaked. You know, after the meeting, you know, when I asked you about why this thing needed to be 3 years, I think you said something to the extent that tracking these permits was, you know, still a work in progress. So again, I don't get that. You know, we disagreed on the information we were hearing out of Big Lake. You had your source, and of course I just have my source, my own eyes. See this on a regular activity, so I've got family that live there, they see it, you know, we know what's going on, so we can agree to disagree there, but again, they got a problem over there, ladies and gentlemen, and it's coming here. Finally, you know, you told me, this stuck with me, you told me I was assuming the worst with this ordinance. I was just assuming the worst was gonna happen. Council members, Madam Mayor, I'm not assuming anything here, okay? I'm only stating logic and fact. You know, just like many of you guys did 2 weeks ago when you brought up your concerns. They were valid concerns. I don't assume, okay? When I have the chance though, I plan, okay? I would much rather hope for the best with this thing, but only after I've planned for the worst. Okay, let me say that again in a different way. You plan for the worst so you have the opportunity to hope for the best. And you have that exact opportunity to do that with this thing right now. I ask again, why the rush? Why is it so important that this thing get pushed through? You know, if you approve this thing as is, you are just pushing through a half thought out fix on the fly proposal. And, you know, and if anything, we've proved that over the last month that this thing just as it stands is a gray area nightmare. Okay, filled with blanket statements. So again, as I wrap up, 2 weeks ago, it was mentioned on more than one occasion on this council that changes can be made quickly and easily, anytime. So I ask again, why not put that time up front before launching this thing? Work to address not only the concerns that I've laid out for the people of this community, but your concerns that you laid out 2 weeks ago. This ordinance should be considered a privilege, not a right, and one that comes with a fair and just fee, much more than $25. I mean, those funds should be used for nice posted signage in off-limit areas like parks, the schools, certain roadways, and the BAC. You know, those funds should be used for educational handouts like flyers and brochures to the public, especially at the time of permitting. You know, those funds should be used for better and easier seen permits so the public can help verify those machines on the roads. So we can better off help out law enforcement. You know, and finally, these permits should be renewed every single year. Not 3. Every year, so we can make sure these machines have proper insurance on them. Just like our cars and trucks we are currently driving. You know, it shouldn't be any different. And also, if we don't have the ability to track these things on a yearly basis, then we absolutely need to push the pause button. So, you know, in closing, council members, before you decide to pass this thing, you know, I hope you all take one more last deep breath. And just ask yourselves, are you really satisfied with this thing? You know, is this the very best plan that we can put out there for our community? Are you ready to go on record with this vote? I mean, and if there is 1 ounce of hesitation at all, then please just choose to keep working on this thing. I don't get why that's not an option. This doesn't get fixed by having the chief come up here again and answer a couple more questions. We need a long-term solution. The last thing, me more than anybody, the last thing anyone wants is to be back here in a few months making those quick and easy fixes to this thing or scrapping it all together once something terrible has happened. I don't want it, and I can't imagine any of you want it either. You all have the power to fix this thing. and make those changes right now. And you know what? If that happens to take a few more months, then so be it. Because at the end of the day, I'm not even asking you to vote no anymore on this thing, okay? I'm just asking you to vote not right now. I mean, it's that simple. So again, on behalf of myself and my family and the silent majority of this town, I challenge you, I challenge you all to please think about this. Really, really think about this. Bring us something better. So that way we can all hope for the best with this. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Pete. Anyone else? With no one, we'll go on to committee reports. Personnel Committee, we met the other week. We had 2 updates, which are in our consent agenda for this evening's meeting. It was an update to the wastewater treatment facility lead description with the technology that is now made available to our technicians. The 30-minute response time is being laxed to 30 to 60 minutes response time because a lot of them, they can log on and check what the issue is. Sometimes it can be corrected from remote, and sometimes it has to be on site. So with the technology that we've instilled, we're allowing for that to be expanded. And then also with separation notices, we are now going to require a 30-day resignation notice for our department heads, being that they have a vast majority of data and knowledge and information in order to pass along. So we're asking council to approve the 30-day resignation process for that. How about EDA?
EDA, we had we met last Monday. We had a market update. I don't think it's any surprise to anybody that the housing market is hot if a house actually gets to market right now. The report that we had was that we are seeing houses going for above 100% of the asking price right now. So, again, probably not a big shock to anybody. We had some business park expansion updates. We also talked about the 2022 budget recommendation, which obviously we'll be discussing in quite detail. So yeah.
All right, how about Park and Rec?
Park and Rec met last night. We did not have a quorum, so it was more of just an updating meeting. We talked about junior ball and the increase in participation that they're seeing. They may need some more field space. Splash pad and sports courts are both coming right along and should be operational very soon. Security cameras at the BAC are installed and running. And we talked about the concession stand, how it's going to operate in 2022, probably leased out to somebody to operate it.
At the BAC concessions?
At the BAC, yep. That's all I have.
Okay. Joint Powers Fire Board also met last night. We discussed the 2022 budget, and that budget rolled forward to our joint entity, Joint Powers Fire Board meeting. The budget of $543,850, which is a difference of $22,000 roughly, or a 4.4% increase, was passed by council and the Joint Powers Board. We also reviewed the CIP, which was an increase of $5,000. And then the ratification of the Fire Relief Association from $4,000 to $5,000 per firefighter's years of service. The other issue that we talked about at the regular Joint Powers Fire Board is that they have been responding to significantly many more fires. And one of the things that they have seen an increase in is people that are smoking outside of their home and put the cigarette out, and they're not really making sure it's completely out while they go into their house and the grass has started on fire or a garage or something. So just a little PSA, don't have to tell you not to smoke, but smoking outside, please be kind and do it correctly, I guess, putting it out. So any other committee reports? With none, we'll move on to City Code Chapter 8, Recreational Vehicle Ordinance with Chief Balloon.
Mayor, council, good evening. Good to see you guys all back together. in the manner that you are sitting. That's great to see. So as we've been talking for some time now with this ordinance, certainly it rests in your hands at this point, whether you feel this is appropriate at this point, or should we move on to something other than this, I guess, at this point. But as we've discussed, this opens up opportunities for those with 4x4s, or four-wheelers rather, side-by-sides, and utility task vehicles, that sort of thing, to be able to drive on city streets permitted. But just to address a couple of things, kids not having helmets, yes, we understand kids are gonna be out with helmets. Do we like it? No, but we will, when we do catch them, it is dealt with. That's not allowed, not under this ordinance, not under what's proposed. So we've indicated in the ordinance 16 or above, and with a driver's license, that sort of thing. Revenue off of permits, again, that was identified by the Planning Commission. If the council were to choose to go higher, I've talked with a few of you related to that, and after comments at the last meeting, we've looked at $25 as a possibility for the fee, and I know Marie will be discussing that if we so choose as part of the fee structure. In addition, I get it, planning for the worst, hoping for the best. I absolutely agree with that, but that's what we're doing in one way here. There's many ways to look at that. Structure helps plan for the worst, and I guess I would point that out to the council as well. And certainly the tracking insurance, that's always gonna be a valid point, but I'll say this, we run into this every day as police officers when people don't have insurance. When I get the request for tabs every year, I could just write down whatever I want though too, and not have insurance. We see that, we run across that, and when we are able to approve or identify that, people are cited, their vehicles can be towed. So that will continue to be a challenge. We trust people will give us the proper information, proof of the information. So I just wanted to point a couple of those things out as well. But again, as we move forward here, if it's something that the council chooses to kind of to wait on, again, one of the concerns we've had over some time here is just the vagueness of the current policy. Could that still be in place? In all fairness, certainly it could. We've certainly taken our time at the police department, me in particular, to look over the ordinance to make sure it's fair and it's something that works. And I would, having to go back to the drawing board or wait, we could certainly do that, as I've mentioned. So I don't know if there's any questions at this point, but again, I just wanted to point out the fees. We've looked at changing the fee after some discussions from $5 to $25, just to make it, I guess, what we felt was a request from the council. So is there any questions at this point that you might have?
Yeah, I do. Someplace I was heard or was told that with our existing ordinance that we got, it's like very vague and it's very difficult to enforce.
You probably heard that from me at the last council meeting.
Okay. So my thought going into this tonight, or even at the last meeting, was maybe what we're looking at, maybe it isn't the best, because things can change, but maybe it's better than what we got, I guess is what I'm getting at. And I'm wondering if...
Keep in mind too, I'll point this out, maybe this will help. If we choose not to go this route, remember, statute still kicks in. We do have a gameplay. If people are out and about on the roadways, we do have some leverage, obviously, in how people are driving. There are things within the ordinance. Take the driving within the Becker Athletic Complex. I mean, we see people doing donuts and stuff like that. Well, there's an unreasonable acceleration or exhibition driving ordinance. State statute is also going to apply. Granted, the enforcement piece is always going to be a question. We know that. We've said that. When I think you identified something you saw the other day, I would say we were never called about that. I don't have proof to say we were called about any of that. We still would ask people to call us when these things happen. So we at least have a fighting chance to catch people that are doing these things and then deal with it appropriately. And that's always going to be a thing for us. Let us know as soon as possible so we can at least cite them, talk to them, educate them, whatever it may be. We do have some things there still in place, and I don't want people to think that there's nothing there if we don't do this, or whatever it is if we do this. But I just think it's important that we stress that there are some things that are still going to be in place to help us, if you will. So we should be fine in that respect.
So Chief, to summarize what you were indicating is that currently a golf cart can be on our streets or only if they have like the cart permit fee.
Great question. And I think it's important that people be reminded of this as well. So those, under the current city ordinance, golf carts, there is an area in our ordinance that was actually updated some time ago. So people with golf carts cannot access the golf course unless they have paid the trail fee. The trail fee, I believe, is currently $550, am I? Yep. So they would actually have had to have the cart inspected, I think. I'm not exactly sure of the process there. You know, pay the fee to the golf course and then they would be allowed access. Now, can they drive it around in the streets or anything like that? No, unless it's direct access to the golf course after the fee has been paid. Does that help?
Sorta. I'm gonna ask another clarification. So those carts that meet the statute regulations, like a rear mirror, lights, mirrors, can they be on our streets?
No. Because per ordinance or per League of Minnesota Cities, if we are allowing them, unless they are licensed, I think we've got one that is licensed.
They're licensed and
One
it's
of them, I
just like-
believe,
it's
like
just like
Kendall,
a
if
motor
you're familiar
vehicle
with
then.
Kendall. He can, but if they are not the same as like his as an example, they are not allowed. Now, we would have to have a permitted process under state statute to allow that.
And this evening's,
This would cover that
Would
if we
cover
chose to
that.
move forward with that.
okay.
But then again, remember, if that's the case, then, you know, they would be allowed to drive up to Food Pride or, you know, wherever with the golf cart. So not just the golf course. But again, to access the golf course, they can't just access the golf course by taking care of, you know, by buying the permit. They would have to buy the trail fee still through the golf course to be accessing the golf
To
course
be
with
on
a
the
personal
golf
card.
course, right. And the trail fee is their coverage for usage of on the course. So it's not just an admin fee to be inspected, it's usage of their cart on our course.
Yeah, there's also a requirement that they have to have like $2 million insurance or something like that.
I looked at Josh on that, so.
Josh here? Oh, he is here, okay.
So when you buy an ATV or a side-by-side, do you register it with the state or DNR, or is it registered anywhere necessarily?
So 4x4s or four-wheelers typically are registered through the DNR because they're typically used on trails.
Okay.
You know, there are those that, like a side-by-side, or something a little larger, there's ways of getting it, you know, for a greater use, let's put it that way. But typically they're used for trails, and stuff like that, or state trails, whatnot, or driving in the
On
ditches and that
public,
sort of thing, but they would
private
have to be,
property.
correct.
Okay.
They would have to be registered through the DNR.
Side by side, I'm not an authority on them by any means, but can they, like a golf cart, with certain golf carts qualify for a license, registration?
Certain ones, I believe, would do, yes.
Side by sides have those scenarios where they qualify, where they could get a license plate
So
for?
big thing about them is size, you know, because you have like, I believe it's class 1, class 2. Class 2, you know, they're 50 to 65 plus wheel width, that sort of thing. So there would be a mechanism, I believe, in place. I can't be quoted on that because I'm not real familiar with four-wheelers myself, but I believe there is a mechanism in place to do so.
So they could get a
I
license
think so.
plate, like you can on a golf cart.
I think so.
Any other questions for Chief Balloon?
I have a question. I have no voice, so just bear with me. Question about, have they always been lumped together, like all 5 of those vehicles in the same ordinance?
You know, I would suspect not. The reason they are in this case is kind of for ease, but that's how the League of Minnesota Cities has identified it in their model ordinance and language. Again, most of the language we have comes from the League of Minnesota Cities. So that's how they've done it. We kind of followed their way of doing it, I guess.
Does the Department of Motor Vehicles have any comments on this? Because if we're issuing a permit for them to drive on roads, aren't they losing license fees?
I have not seen any comments from them whatsoever, but great point. You gotta assume that they probably are, I suppose, but I have not heard or seen anything related to that.
I'm sure if you ask them, they'll tell
Oh,
you
yeah.
they're very angry.
They certainly want their cut, so who knows, but, I have not seen or heard.
And they do consume gasoline or
Sure.
the like, and most people, I would imagine, would purchase, if they have a side-by-side, it's in lieu, they'll have a car and a side-by-side. It's not like somebody's gonna go, I'm gonna pick one or the other, and they're just gonna pick the side-by-side. I would imagine they probably already have the motor vehicle where the state's gonna get their money anyways, so.
Right.
Currently, none of these can access our roads. Like, I want to make sure I understand that correctly.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
People think we've already approved this, though.
We had somebody come in the following day with a permit actually, or the application already filled out.
How did that discussion go with that individual?
We just let them know it's still under discussion with the city council. So nothing at that point had been approved, and pending, further discussion, we would update our website or get information out pertaining to that.
Do you know the surrounding cities around us? I know Big Lake has it. What about like Zimmerman or Monticello? Do any of those?
Many of them have golf carts and stuff like that already. And kind of by default, you'll find that most of them, if they have one, they're gonna have most of them already. We did find that. I can't think off the top of my head which specific cities we had checked. I mean, there are a number of them. A lot of them have the golf carts, the four-wheelers, stuff like that already. It's becoming a common thing, good or bad, it is becoming a common thing in a lot of cities.
A lot of communities,
Yes.
a lot of communities have golf carts, it's real common, particularly in the golfing area, it's all you see is golf carts driving down the street.
I would say a lot of the rural communities, you'll see more of the four-wheelers and stuff like that.
I still have had the same hesitation that I had at the last meeting in regards to with four-wheelers. I can understand a golf cart in the community. The side-by-side, I'm a little bit more comfortable with, but an ATV or like of a four-wheeler, I still have hesitation in regards to that. And I think the reason is because of the seatbelt and in a side-by-side versus on a four-wheeler, and then just the usage of around.
Well, the four-wheeler is basically designed for off-road. And there is no seatbelt because you really wouldn't want to be tied on there if you do fall.
Like a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was curious if it has to be all in the same ordinance, you know what I mean? I just don't know.
Years ago, obviously, as mentioned, we kind of dealt with the golf cart ordinance separately many years ago. Nothing would say that we couldn't update that part of the ordinance, so to speak, and if the council chose to do so, make a provision for that if we chose to do so.
With my stated comfort level, I would, my decision personally is not to approve it because it includes the four-wheeler. So that's just my personal stance on this ordinance. But we'll go with majority.
I understand what you're saying from a safety perspective. The person who's, should there be an incident, the person who's most likely gonna be injured is gonna be the person on the four-wheeler. I mean, it's kind of self-correcting behavior to me. If you're out messing around and you're the one that gets hurt, it's kind of.
But if you're gonna be out messing around, you're gonna be out messing around whether we have this ordinance or not.
Right.
Yeah, the thing is with the ordinance, then they'd be in violation, and there's a reason for them to stop them too. Or to do
I'd
something.
rather have an ordinance with some teeth than a very vague ordinance that people are not at all aware of.
Well, they're aware of it, they choose to ignore
Some
it.
people believe they can do it now,
I know, well, yeah, I know.
so.
Any other questions for Chief Balloon? Otherwise, I'll ask council how they wish to proceed.
I would make a motion to, approve ordinance 237 second series, amending section, 8.02, 810, 811, 812, and deleting section 806 of chapter 8.
Deleting section 806. Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
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 Opposed? Aye.
I, like,
Motion passes.
Thank you, council. Also, the second part of this, obviously, to be a motion and second to approve the summary for publication purposes.
I'll make a motion to, approve ordinance 237 second series summary for publication purposes.
I'll second that also.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin for publication. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just make sure we got everything. Motion a second for that.
The second one on there was to approve it. That's the one I read.
Yeah, okay. Do we, Susan, sorry, point of clarification, do we need the motion to change chapter 8 of the city code from the table for further discussion? We did not remove it from the table. Could I have a motion to remove the item from the table?
Sure. I'll make a motion to, remove, ordinance 237 second series, discussion from the table for further discussion.
Second?
All right, motion from Rick, second from Robin to remove from the table appended to today's table. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Then
Do you need
wanna
us
go
to
through the-
reissue those motions in seconds? Probably. The same votes? Okay, sounds good.
Alright, so I will make a motion, my apologies, sir.
Nope.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 237 second series, amending sections 802, 810, 811, 812, and deleting section 806 of chapter 8.
Second.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Then I'll make a motion to, approve ordinance 237 second series summary for publication purposes.
Second.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, thank you. Okay, Marie, public hearings, city fee schedule update. Ms. Flipson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So tonight we are focusing on two sections of the city's fee schedule that you'll see outlined in Ordinance 241. The first being one that was already recently mentioned tonight, the license fee for the recreational motor vehicle ordinance that was just recently adopted. This was originally in our fee schedule at $5, and then as the discussion had went from last meeting, the council had proposed that changing of the fee to $25. So that is part of this. If there's any questions on that, I would be happy to toss them to Chief Balloon. Otherwise, the second fee that was identified is for the parkland dedication fee. This is currently in our fee schedule again, and we are proposing the reduction of that to $1,250 per unit to help with some of the further development of our community. So that those two are the ones being identified tonight. If there's any questions, otherwise if you would like to open the public hearing.
I will open the public hearing at 5:33 p.m. Anyone here wishing to discuss the fee changes to the schedule? Seeing no one, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
But before we do, I thought we talked a little bit lower fee than that 1,200. I thought it was lower than that.
We were talking between 1,200 and 1,300, so we landed kind of right in the
And
middle.
what's our current?
1940
Yeah,
or
okay.
1960. Yep.
Okay. I remember talking about it, I just don't remember what we,
It's 1940.
okay.
We talked about it at planning, and
Planning.
there wasn't a final, it was just that it was gonna be lower, I don't think.
Yeah.
Any other discussion or comments? Otherwise, I will ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion from Mike, second from Rick. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
We are closed at 5:34 p.m. Does council wish to proceed with a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 241 second series, updating section 2.19 of chapter 2 in the city code, providing for fees related to licensing and property.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Those in, oh, sorry, any discussion? None? Those in favor can state aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
Then I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 241 second series summary for publication purposes.
I'll second that as well.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Board Committee and Consultant Reports, River Bend Second Edition, Lot 1, Block 1, Condition of Sale with Ms. Flipson.
Thank you. So the identified lot and block, that lot 1, block 1 of Riverbend is currently a common lot. So when you're driving out to Riverbend and you see the quad homes kind of on the right-hand side, the common lot is everything that surrounds those. So it's not the actual unit itself, but it's that surrounding parcel. Over the last year, that parcel has gone into tax forfeiture. So it is currently under the purview of the county, and then there is a statutory process that they are following to get that back into, let's say, private hands. So with that, that common property is a requirement, or based on that being a common lot, the requirement that was established back when that was platted through a conditional use permit was that there has to be an active HOA. So tonight before you, Resolution 2160 is recommending a condition to the county attorney's office to sell that property or reestablish a HOA to control that property. So there would be a land transfer back to an active HOA. Further, if that is not the case, this would be a recommendation to not approve of the sale of that common property. What we don't want to have happen is have one private owner of that common property with all sorts of access issues. So that's where we are requesting that an active HOA be reestablished. If there's any questions, I'm happy to address them. This one's a little bit more technical due to the statutory process, but I am
The
happy
HOA
to
is
try.
part of the agreement with the development, right?
CUP condition.
Yes, through, yep, the zoning.
They're in
approvals.
violation of the development agreement by not having an active HOA.
Correct,
Yeah.
yep.
I know HOAs can be problematic, as we've probably all experienced, you know, issues over the last few years where homes change hands and all of a sudden new people come in and they maybe don't have the same information as everybody else, and you know, people forget, and all of a sudden the rules aren't passed down. This is one where it seems to totally make sense, because when you have a quad home, how do you put siding on one side of a quad home? Or if a roof is needing repair, how do you do that? This is one where it makes complete sense, so I don't have any issue with it.
So resolution 2160?
Correct.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve resolution 2160, requiring an HOA to take control of the land. This is a letter we're sending to the county, right?
Correct, yes.
I'll second.
So we have a motion from Mike, second from Rick for Resolution 20-60, recommending conditional sale of parcel 604870105. Those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to structural builders video.
This is a fun one, I promise. There's no vote needed. This is a project over the last couple of years. We have been doing additional videos through the EDA. So we did one on the business park, and now we partnered with Structural Buildings on a project here, kind of highlighting their business, but also the businesses that they have worked with in the community and kind of how our community has grown. So tonight I'm showing our brief 1-minute video, and then tomorrow we will launch, it's actually a 2-video series. There is also an 8-minute video that'll be available for folks to watch. It goes into a little more detail on their business and then really highlighting some of those other businesses that they have worked with over the last couple decades. So with that, I will play it for kind of the full launch or preview tonight. Hopefully I have sound.
I mean, a lot of these businesses, we got to contribute the support of the city of Becker, because you know, without them as a partner, none of us could probably do what we've done here in this town. So, a great opportunity, and I see a lot more going on in this town coming up. So hopefully we'll be a part of a lot of that too. So.
So Becker's a great place to have a business. One of the things we looked at is centrally located in the state for us being a statewide company and having some nice visibility on the highway frontage here. But we quickly learned that Becker's just a great community to be a part of, very supportive in a small community, and we love to be able to be a part of that.
That was the quick little one, but special thanks to Structural Builders to them for participating in it, and that was it.
All right, thank you, Mary. 2022 Gulf Maintenance Equipment Lease with Mr. Scharfenkamp.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. It's hard to believe it's been 5 years already since I stood up here and presented this the first time around, but here we are. So in 2016, we started the first term of our lease, or started exploring it and entered it in 2017. And that was for some of the heaviest use equipment that we have. It's been a fantastic partnership with John Deere on that. All of our equipment went from major repairs to just minor bearings and just routine maintenance stuff. Stuff that we've been able to pretty easily keep up on, and now we're starting to get towards the end of the life of that lease and need to explore the next iteration of that lease. So last month we approached Toro and John Deere for some quotes, and they offered to buy out the second half. So the lease will actually go from two steps to just one lease for the entire package. Both vendors were very competitive. However, we would recommend staying with John Deere. The service history has been fantastic. Both service calls, parts, troubleshooting, just helping us keep uptime as high as we possibly can. One of the biggest pieces is interchangeable parts with what we own. So kind of the next thing that I'll bring up will be some buyouts of these leases, and some of the pieces that we own, the cutting units, we can interchange with the new John Deere units as well. So helps us keep uptime up when we have to sharpen cutting units and that kind of thing. And another added benefit, John Deere has partnered with Club Procure, a organization that we are partnered with as well. It essentially is a rebate of 2% of the purchase value, which comes out to roughly $6,900 rebate back to us on that.
Is that done in the form of cash, or is that in the form of like future parts credits?
They put it in as a parts credit. However, we can use it anyway with John Deere. So if there's a small piece of equipment that is within that, or if we want to use it towards a piece of equipment, we're able to do that. I believe we had that last time where we had used it towards the tractor that we had purchased with it. So, and then one other benefit is less training time due to the uniform equipment. If we go Toro, then we have some of our pieces will be the John Deere versions of it, where you have to train them on both the John Deere and the Toro to do the same task on some of that stuff. The cost annually, Toro came in at $75,819.54. John Deere came in at $76,296. So they were $475 more annually. However, it's still $196 less than our current agreement for the same package. One reason the package is there hasn't been much price change there. We did receive an additional tractor now in the Public Works when they had exchange some equipment. So now we have the availability to use that tractor in multiple ways. So we will go down on one dedicated rough mower, but pick up one more unit that is pulled behind the tractor. So that was a significant cost savings by not having a second dedicated rough mower on that package. And then ultimately, I would recommend the John Deere over Toro, even though the price difference, for the reasons that were mentioned before. Any questions?
You said you'll be able to keep some of the cutting heads so that you can
Yep.
use them with the new
Yeah,
equipment?
so we actually purchased some out of our operating budget. So we own 2 sets of cutting units for the current
No
units.
good with the Toro.
Correct. But we would be able to use them on that buyout piece if we were to go forward with that, even if it was Toro. If the lease was Toro and we still bought out the one mower.
Oh, okay, so it has no effect then.
We would, but we are able to change those cutting units over to the new equipment as well. So it gives us a lot more uptime if we have to sharpen.
What I'm getting at, is there a dollar value to that? That's what I'm getting at. You said there was a $400 difference approximately in the two
Right.
bids. With these cutting heads.
If we were to buy a set of backup units for Toro, it would cost us in the realm of $15,000. At least that's what we had been quoted by John Deere when we did the first term of the lease. It was over half of the cost of the machine we were purchasing, which seemed very high. But we were able to find some used ones and have rebuilt those to have a good set of backup units that we can just interchange onto those.
What I'm getting at is just justification for the higher price.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm.
Yep. Yeah, it would serve us less if we did not have John Deere.
Yeah, I would agree with Mike. I think you put it on the case. Certainly worth $475 worth of, whether it's time just to learn how to have to run both machines or
Right.
said interchangeability of parts. I think that's a no-brainer.
Any other questions at all? If not, can I request a motion and second to adopt resolution 2162, allowing us to enter a lease agreement with John Deere and Frontier Ag and Turf?
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Golf maintenance equipment lease buyouts, Mr. Scharfenkamp.
All right. So with those pieces expiring, there are 3 pieces that we would recommend purchasing out of that lease package to replace some of our existing backup units. They're much lower cost to buy it out of the lease like this than if we were to buy a used piece, similar hours or anything like that, and much lower hours than the pieces they're replacing. I would recommend the funding out of our capital improvement line for heavy-duty utility vehicles this year. This kind of covers it. It's a net benefit by replacing 3 pieces of equipment and gaining a heavy-duty utility vehicle. Because if we purchase the sprayer out of the lease, we would be buying a stand to set the sprayer on and then also a box. So that allows us to use that when it's not being used as a sprayer, we can use it as a utility vehicle. And then the triplex mower would replace a 2003 unit that we have with 3,900 hours on it and lift arm issues. and the True Turf greens roller would replace a 2011 unit that has some steering issues. These would be purchased after the lease payments in October, and the equipment would be replaced. The equipment being replaced would be taken to auction in the spring to the regional turf auction. Total cost would come to $22,810.88 of the budgeted $25,000. And as I mentioned, it ultimately nets us 3 pieces of equipment and still checks that box for the heavy-duty utility vehicle. Any questions?
So I'm assuming when we go to auction in the spring, that money would go back into CIP then, so that would even.
The last time that we had taken stuff, it was reinvested into our small engine or small equipment, such as carts and stuff that don't make it to the CIP. Like our utility vehicles and stuff like that, we typically purchase for under $5,000, and that's kind of where that money came from the previous years. However, I don't know exactly how that would be approached.
You do have a equipment sale that should go back into go.
Okay.
And we do have a
Yeah, because I'd like to at least then everybody has visibility to it. It goes back in, and then it's just a separate, you know.
Yep. Any other questions? If not, could I request a motion and second to authorize staff to purchase the listed equipment at the end of the lease?
Make motion to authorize staff to purchase the listed equipment after the lease has finished with CIP funds.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor may state aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
2021 Street Improvement Project Bid Review with Mr. Knutson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk to you about our street improvement projects, the bid letting, and prior to award, some of the items we want to talk about. So Randy Sabart is here from SEH, so I will give a kind of a brief overview on the dollars side of it, and then I'll ask Randy to talk a little bit more about the project itself, why we're not looking to award tonight, and what our plan is for that. So if you recall, we went through a bonding exercise on our street projects. Prior to doing that, we laid out our CIP in anticipation of not having that opportunity. So you'll see our CIP dollars on these projects are higher than the overall bid that we're going to look to award. The reason for doing that, when you look at Sherburne Avenue South, it's a large road, and to do the thing at one bite, if we didn't get bonding, would have depleted our CIP and pushed us back probably 3 or 4 years before we could do another project. So being somewhat prudent, we thought we would break that down if we had to do it over 2 or 3 years and do it more cost effective that way. So what we've seen is an economy of scale by being able, after you guys approved the bond, we were able to take these projects and push them all together and get a very nice economy of scale for a contractor to come in and do that. So the original budget that we were looking at was $6.6 million on the projects in question. The low bid with alternate is just under $4 million on the project. So very favorable on the bidding side of it. So we feel really good about that. There is one caveat to the project. The alternate is specific to Vonco, or the road at Vonco. Turn lanes, bypass lanes, is an acceleration lane. Again, so council's up to full speed on this. We've talked about a cost share with Vonco. Randy, myself, and 3 of the gentlemen from Vonco had a very healthy conversation about the project, what it entails, and the cost share on that. We start and end at a 50% cost share, would be our recommendation to council, and they are mulling that over right now. That alternate is $600,000, a little over $600,000. So it is a big chunk of change for Vanco. They too see the safety factors of that road and those elements that we're adding into it. We've asked Vanco for an answer. We'd like to see it tomorrow, but we gave them through Friday to respond back to us. They did reach out to Randy today for some more information on that. And again, with this road, I'll ask Randy to come up and talk a little bit more in detail to what we're looking to do and specifically at Vanco and what it entails there.
So just a point of clarification, you had said 600,000 as the 50-50. That is the actual total.
Sorry, that's the total
alternate.
cost, and we would ask them to split that.
Okay.
So I'll have Randy come up and talk in more detail.
Welcome, Mr. Sabar.
Good evening. Actually, I think Phil covered it pretty well. So as far as the the alternate is concerned, based on our last conversation with the council, if Vanco, for example, chose not to participate, the base project would essentially resurface the pavement that you see out there today. So the through lanes, and there is some widened shoulders in the vicinity of Vanco. So we have a plan, I guess, assuming either action, either the base bid and resurfacing what's there, or if Vanco would indicate interest to participate and the council ordered it in, you'd be able to do the widened improvement. Delaying the award of the bid so that a decision could be made on the alternate works more in your favor in terms of awarding a contract versus awarding a base bid and then coming back and having to negotiate, say, a change or the addition. So you have time built into this bidding process to be able to contemplate award either at your next meeting or at a special meeting. So somewhat by design, it built in some flexibility. As Phil had described, the improvements that we're looking at to make with the alternate were a combination of lengthened left turn lanes. So if you're southbound from Liberty Lane towards Vanco, we would add some left turning lanes to accommodate the truck traffic. Similarly, there'd be widening on the southbound lane in addition to the left turn lane, so you could bypass traffic turning into, say, the Vanco north entrance. Similarly, if you were northbound, right turn lane and through lane improvements. So generally, widening of that section on both sides so that we're accommodating both the truck and the through traffic. So certainly viewed as a safety improvement given the volume and some of the speed of the trucks that we see in that vicinity. So with that, I guess I'd maybe pause and ask if the council had questions regarding the nature of the project.
How long are these lanes?
They're longer than the standard turn lane, and I'm going to draw a blank, Councilor, in terms of they're longer than 480 feet, which is the typical left or right turn lane length.
And so how much wider is the road going to be then?
We're widening about better than 14 feet on each side, given each of those lanes are either 12 to 14 feet.
Is there any land acquisitions that we need or
So
easement?
because of the widening, we are looking at widening on both sides, and not just because of the widened pavement, but then the ditching, the drainage improvements that would be, in conjunction. So yes, there would be an additional easement or right-of-way contribution from the XL side as well as the Vanco side. So we tried to split that difference equally so that we weren't creating an impact on one side more than the other. But generally speaking, the length of that improvement is probably about 1,500 feet north to south.
Yeah, because of both directions.
Yep.
So on the northbound traffic, Vanco has multiple entrances. Would this be turn lanes just for one entrance?
So we were looking to create a right turn lane at their south entrance as well as a right turn lane to now they have two, I would describe as two entrances at the north end, but a right turn lane at the north entrance as well. Similarly for southbound directions.
That would be cosmetically different.
Yes.
Have you worked with this company before? They don't seem as familiar to me.
I have. They are, they're based out of Princeburg, so they do a lot of work they do a lot of work across Minnesota and the Dakotas, but they do a lot of work in the Spicer-Wilmer area, for example. So I do have direct experience working with them as a contractor. They are a capable contractor, and a rather large one, so they're in both the water and sewer and street grading business, so.
Well, I guess if Vonco's willing to go
No,
in,
they don't have a decision yet until Friday.
I understand that. So we are not gonna do anything, we're just gonna talk about it?
Correct. Tonight was more for an update and information purposes, canvass the bids, but actual action will occur at a later meeting.
Okay. 'Cause
All right, well, if there's no other questions for Mr. Sabar, I'll let him go back.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Phil, do you want to take us to the next steps? You've called for a special meeting?
Yes, thank you for that, Randy. Yes, what we'd like to do is put it on the calendar, if it works, to call for a special meeting on July 27th, a week from tonight, at 5 o'clock, for the purpose of bid award for the 2021 street improvement projects. If that works for everybody's schedule. If it doesn't, we can take a look at next week. We just went to that, Monday's open. Again, we did talk with Vonco, and we've given them till Friday, and they felt they could make that decision back to us or communicate back to us by this
could
Friday.
we have the meeting on Monday?
We could have the meeting on Monday.
We called for it tonight or tomorrow.
I am not free Monday.
You what?
I am not free Monday.
You're not free Monday? Oh.
How about Tuesday, the 27th at 5 o'clock? We just need a consensus or a,
We could change the time too. I mean, if later in the day works better for people or what have you.
We have a 7 that night too, don't we?
yes.
We have planning
So
commission,
much fun.
or planning.
I can make Tuesday work. I can't make Monday work, but any other night I probably could.
Just as a point of clarification, last night at fire board discussion, we had a point of business on there as well, and since this is a special meeting, we would have to make sure that is added. We can't add it to the agenda that night. We would have to call the special meeting for both purposes stated ahead of time.
And I was gonna work with Julie at our executive session. If we have that discussion and we move forward with that, we would post the agenda at that time. But I just looking for a consensus now if we could, but yes, the agenda would be discussed that way.
So do we have a quorum for next Tuesday at 5?
Yeah, well, we would for Monday also.
Yeah, either night. I mean, I won't be here Monday, but you think you'd have a quorum.
We still have a quorum.
What works for you, Beck?
Probably Tuesday over Monday. I'm looking.
Tuesday works better for you? Okay, Tuesday.
Okay. All right, you have your direction to move forward.
Perfect, thank you. 1.2, this isn't, the street projects also include First Street from Gardner to Sherburne and Liberty from Sherburne Avenue South to the entrance of Liberty Paper, the end of Energy Drive construction from last year. So it is a pretty big project. It's not just Sherburne South, but Sherburne South is where any of the changes we've made to the road surface. Okay. Thank you.
All right, administrator and staff reports. Call for a public hearing regarding alcohol compliance check failure. Chief Balloon.
Good evening. Certainly last but not least, I believe on the agenda, but as you know, we do alcohol compliance checks at least or minimum one time per year per ordinance or per our city ordinance. With the help of Sherburne County Public Health, on June 23rd, 2021, alcohol compliance checks were completed within the city of, excuse me, of all license holders that we currently have. As a result of that, one of the businesses did fail the alcohol compliance check, and that was Jubilee Liquors. So per our city ordinance, we are required to have a public hearing to address or discuss the failure and any potential civil consequence as a result. As a reminder to the council, the way it's set up is the first offense of or any violation within 3 years is $750, a minimum fine and 1 day suspension. Second offense is $1,000 fine, 3 day suspension. Third offense would be $2,000 fine, 7 day suspension, and a fourth violation would be a license revocation determined by the city council. We are at the third violation here within 3 years. I have discussed that with Christy and John. They very disappointed in their staff. I can tell you the staff member's been removed, I believe, at this point. So they are aware of the public hearing that needs to take place here. So that being said, I'm looking to, or I would request a public hearing to be set for the city council meeting on Tuesday, August 10th, 2021 to discuss these matters. So if we are able to set an approved public hearing date for that date and time to discuss this, that would be great. Any questions?
Hate to see that happen.
Yeah.
Make a motion to call for a public hearing, Tuesday, August 10th, approximately 5 PM to discuss, the alcohol compliance check failure.
I'll second.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor may state aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Carried.
I thought you were gonna tell us that nobody failed this year.
Consent agenda with Mr. Przinski.
Madam Mayor, City Council consent agenda for July 20th. Item number 1, hiring and termination report form for Becker Police Department and Pebble Creek Golf Club. Item number 2 is a temporary liquor license for the Sons of the American Legion, and that's an event coming up on August 21st. Item number 3 is Resolution 21-61, which is accepting a donation from the Becker Lions. Item number 4, I think it was referenced earlier in the meeting, is a personnel policy update, and that's a separation from service. Item number 4 is also personnel related. Some changes to wastewater operator lead. And that's a response time, also referenced earlier. And then item number 6, partial pay request number 1 to Trout Companies. This is for the 2020 municipal well field. That project is underway. Remember that contract amount is $263,830. This partial pay in the amount of $103,212.75, leaving a construction contract amount of $166,1725. So any questions, I can try to address those questions. Otherwise, a motion to adopt the consent agenda would be appreciated.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Payment of the bills.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Does the council have anything else for the betterment of Becker? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 6:08 PM.